UFC Fight Night at Jacksonville Overeem versus Harris takes place this weekend, and this card is way better than the card in the middle of the week that we just had on Wednesday between Smith and Teixeira. I'm going to be going through the entire card, starting with the early prelims, ending with the main event, giving my prediction and breakdown for every single fight on the card, starting with our early prelim opener of Rodrigo Nascimento Ferreira versus Don'Tale Mayes. Rodrigo Nascimento Ferreira coming in a newcomer to the UFC, undefeated, submission expert, amazing fighter. Don'Tale Mayes, kind of a jobber in the UFC. He was brought in on short notice to fight Cyril Gane at one point, and Cyril Gane even had a moment in the fight where he pulled a submission off. I think it was a heel hook. I can't quite remember what it was. But if Cyril Gane is experimenting with his submission game on you in the octagon and just decides to go for it in the last round and get it, then Rodrigo Nascimento Ferreira, who prides himself on going for the submissions, is going to have a much easier time in doing so. And I think that Rodrigo Nascimento Ferreira is going to be a good addition to the heavyweight division. I just don't think that Don'Tale Mayes is skilled enough to avoid those submission positions, because being a big, strong guy only really can make a difference in the stand-up game, because you've always got that one-punch knockout power. But when it comes to the ground, you've really got to have your fundamentals in order. I don't think Don'Tale Mayes has them. Rodrigo Nascimento Ferreira is going to get the submission in the first or second round. Moving on. Terrible fight. Courtney Casey versus Mara Romero Barella. I would usually pick Mara Romero Barella here because she has Romero in her name, and that's all I can really draw from this fight. However, I'm mainly going to pick her in this fight because Courtney Casey is absolute dog shit. Mara Romero Barella's decent. I guess she's not, I mean, she's also dog shit, don't get me wrong, they both are, but Mara's got some physical advantages. She's shorter with a longer reach, which means it's going to be harder for Courtney Casey to get in there on the inside. I think Mara Romero Barella's going to get the job done. I don't know how she's going to get the job done. I think she will just win by close decision, and it's going to be pretty uneventful. Moving on to some real fights. Darren Elkins versus Nate Landwehr. A lot of people don't know who Nate Landwehr is. He's a real good prospect. He came into the UFC, however, he came in against Herbert Burns. Everyone picked Nate Landwehr to win. I picked Herbert Burns. I knew Herbert Burns was a savage because he's related to Gilbert Burns, and anyone in that bloodline is a savage, and I picked him to beat Nate Landwehr by KO. It happened. Nate Landwehr is going to bounce back because this is Darren Elkins, and it's Darren Elkins, and I think Nate Landwehr is going to get the job done. I don't think he's going to get a finish. I think he's just going to piece up Darren Elkins for 3 rounds, get the job done, move on with his career. Nate Landwehr gets the finish. Darren Elkins at this point, I feel like, is just, you know, a little bit too much. A little bit too old, 35. Coming into this fight camp, I feel like Nate Landwehr is going to go out there and get the job done and probably actually get the finish in the second round. Nate Landwehr by TKO in the second round. Moving on. Mike Davis versus Giga Chikadze. This is actually a really good fight to open up our prelims. Mike Davis is an absolute talent. He had an amazing performance against Thomas Gifford. He's a great talent. I love watching Mike Davis fight. He's very technical. He's very crisp. He had a great fight on the Contender Series as well with Sadiq Youssef. And that was a close fight. People forget about that fight with Sadiq Youssef on the Contender Series. That might be one of my most favourite fights of all time. Go back and watch that. If you haven't already, go back and watch Sadiq Youssef versus Mike Davis on YouTube. Unfortunately, the titles of the Contender Series fights always ruin the result of the fight, which is the most retarded thing ever. However, Mike Davis, I mean, he's a talent, man. I think he's going to beat Giga Chikadze. I was less than impressed with Giga Chikadze in his last few opponents. Against Brandon Davis, made it look really close. And Giga Chikadze is supposed to be this talented guy coming up with all the hype behind him. I just think Mike Davis is going to crack him with some power shots, outstrike him, and get the job done. Mike Davis is going to get the job done by decision. It's going to be a brutal decision. I think Giga Chikadze is going to survive to the bell. However, Mike Davis is going to win every round 30-27 with his stand-up. Mike Davis gets the job done. Moving on. Anthony Fluffy Hernandez versus Kevin Holland. Another amazing fight. Contender Series guy Kevin Holland came into the UFC taking a short notice bout with Thiago Santos. For that, he has my utmost respect. No one joins the UFC to fight Thiago Santos first, but Kevin Holland did, and he survived bombs off of Santos. He has a great chin. He's got a great submission game as well. He was rolling around with Gerald Meerschaert, who's an absolute savage on the ground, and that was a close fight that could have gone either way. A lot of tough decisions on Kevin Holland's career, but I feel like he's going to get the jump on Anthony Hernandez here. I just don't see anything remotely impressive from Anthony Hernandez. His last performance was against a guy I don't really have too much respect for in Park Yon Young. little bit of an older guy in the UFC, and Ante Hernandez won that fight off of his takedowns. I just think the submission game off of his back is going to be enough to keep this fight standing for Kevin Holland. He's got great scrambles, and he's just going to be able to outrange Ante Hernandez on the feet and win the fight by unanimous decision. Kevin Holland gets the job done. Moving on up the card to the prelim headliner. Matt the Immortal Brown makes his return against Miguel Baeza. Matt Brown is one of my most favourite fighters, and right now he's on a 2-fight win streak. Big time. I know they're against Ben Saunders and other guys that are quite older, and Diego Sanchez as well, but he's coming back and he's taking on a real tough guy in Miguel Baeza here, and Miguel Baeza is no fucking joke. No joke whatsoever. Came into the UFC, fought a guy, Hector Aldana, not the most respected opponent, finished him in the second round. I actually feel as though, and I know this might be a weird thing, I don't see Matt Brown getting KO'd by Miguel Baeza, and I think the veteran status of Matt Brown here is going to be able to smother Miguel Baeza against the cage, because you see it in a lot of these young guys that are coming up. They don't like it when things don't go their way for the first time. He's an undefeated fighter. Things have gone his way so far in his career, and I think if Matt Brown can take him into the second round, start putting him against the cage and start dragging for some takedowns, I think he can get the job done. I think Matt Brown's going to get this done, maybe by finishing the second or third round. I'll go with that. TKO Matt Brown, third or second round finish. Miguel Baeza's going to lose. Moving on to the main card. Let's get to some real fucking talent-stacked fights. The main card of this whole card is wonderful to me. I love everything about this card. Song Yadong versus Marlon Vera is the opener of the main card. Amazing. Marlon Vera finally gets his shot on the main card, and this fight takes place at featherweight, which is intriguing. Both guys normally fight at bantamweight. However, this fight is taking place at featherweight. That's a very big factor to take into consideration. I actually think at bantamweight, Song Yadong would beat Marlon Vera. At featherweight, however, when you're an explosive guy like Song Yadong, you form explosive tendencies. We saw this when McGregor first jumped from 145 to 170. I know it's not exactly the same situation, but it's a similar situation. McGregor was at 145. A very small guy, used to being really explosive, and he's built his body around that. Then he takes a fight up a weight class. All of a sudden, he has all this way more muscle mass on him, and he gasses out. He had staph infection as well, but, you know, the muscle mass and the fast twitch explosion did play a factor there. I think Song Yadong is going to go out there, looking to KO Marlon Vera in the first round, and I think that with all the extra weight that he has on him in this fight, he's going to gas himself out looking for a KO, and I think that Marlon Vera, up a weight class here, he has the slow, methodical pace anyway in his original fights at bantamweight. I think he's going to carry it over into the featherweight division. I don't think Song Yadong's going to KO him, however, I do worry about this prediction a lot. I really worry about this prediction because I know Marlon Vera loses a lot of fights until he wins them, but I'm counting on Marlon Vera surviving long enough into the later waters of this fight and the deep waters of this fight and eventually drowning Song Yadong in the third round, earning himself a nice little finish. I think Marlon Vera is going to get it done by third round TKO. I just think that Song Yadong, without being at 35, now he's got a bit more muscle mass on him. He's going to be throwing like he would be at 35. He has those tendencies. And when you're exploding with an extra 10 pounds of weight on you, I just don't see it going well for him. I think Marlon Vera is going to take it. I think he's much a bigger guy for the division as well. I think he's a more natural featherweight. He's longer in range department as well. He's got a 9 centimeter reach advantage here. I think that Marlon Vera is going to get the job done. I like Song Yadong's performance against Cody Stamann. I just think that maybe we shouldn't judge Song Yadong off of his 1 KO victory and say that that's what he's going to do to everyone. I think Marlon Vera is going to be able to weather the storm in the first round and eventually start picking apart Song Yadong to get himself the third round TKO, because Song Yadong is all explosiveness and Marlon Vera is slow and steady, wins the race. The tortoise versus the hare. I'm betting on the tortoise. Marlon Vera gets the job done by third round TKO. Moving on. Eric Anders versus Krzysztof Jotko. Amazing fight. Really amazing fight. I love this fight. The winner of this one might get ranked. Who knows? Might get a number 15 spot in the rankings. Eric Anders, Krzysztof Jotko. Very close odds. We kind of don't know what's going to happen here. However, I am going to go with Krzysztof Jotko. He can mix it up more. He can throw in some good grappling techniques. He has decent wins over decent fighters in the division, like Marc-Andre Barriault in his last fight at UFC 240, Holloway versus Edgar. That was a good performance. He also beat Alan Amedovski by decision as well. I just think he's beaten some decent guys, and he's lost to guys that are way better than the guys that Eric Anders has lost to. You know? Krzysztof Jotko loses to Brad Tavares. That's not too bad. He loses to Uriah Hall. David Branch. Like, these are decent guys in the division, and I look on the other side of things at Eric Anders' resume, and I see that he's lost to Khalil Roundtree, and although Khalil Roundtree's been on the Joe Rogan Experience, which seems to make him the next champion for some reason when you go on that show, he's not the best. You know, he's where he is in the rankings for a reason, because he's not a complete fighter. I feel like Anders is going to go out there looking for an early KO, and Jotko might be able to drag this into deep waters and use his grappling skills and get the jump on Anders here to earn himself a unanimous decision victory. Good job, Krzysztof Jotko. I'm saying good job like it's already happened. I don't know if it's already happened, but I feel like Eric Anders' one chance is to catch Jotko with a punch on the feet. Jotko has the reach advantage. Jotko has the experience advantage. And he also has the grappling to fall back on. I think there's too many tools in Jotko's disposal. I think he's going to go in there and get the job done on Eric Anders and earn himself a unanimous decision victory. Moving on. Dan Ige versus Edson Barboza. Maybe my favourite fight on the card. One of them. Dan Ige versus Edson Barboza is a great fight. What's Barboza going to look like in the featherweight division? That's a big ask. I know a lot of people aren't cutting weight for these cards during a pandemic. But Barboza said, fuck that, I'm going to cut weight. And not only cut weight, cut to a new division I've never been to before. I'm going to assume that even if he doesn't do it as well as Aldo, I think he actually might get a jump on Dan Ige here. I know Dan Ige is a dangerous fighter. However, Dan Ige is not a KO artist. If Dan Ige had some great KO power, I know he has power, don't get me wrong, and he has got KO finishes in his career, but I believe he has 3 KO finishes out of his 13 wins, maybe 4 KO finishes. If Dan Ige was out here Sadiq Yusuff in cracking people with big shots that they don't like the sound of, I might end up picking him over Edson Barboza. However, I don't think that he has the power that's really going to crack Barboza's chin, and I think that Barboza coming down in weight, a lot of people don't realise it until they're in there, but just because he's cutting weight does not mean he's changing the frame of his body. He's going to be a huge featherweight in there. If he survives this fight with Dan Ige, which I think he's going to do, and I think he's actually going to win this one and probably finish it as well, I think he could have a real mainstay in the featherweight division. I think he could fit in very well. It's going to take a real power puncher like the Calvin Katars of the featherweight division. You know, like the Josh Emmets of the featherweight division. To make Barboza pay for cutting that much weight. I don't think Ige's going to be able to do it. I don't think he's going to out-grapple Edson Barboza. Edson Barboza's going to be a way bigger man in there. I think Barboza's going to go out there, stay patient, chop away Ige in the first round, and land some big shots and be the bigger man and get the job done. Barboza wins, and if he does win, I want him to fight Calvin Kattar next. Moving on. Barboza by TKO in the 3rd round. Barboza by decision, he chops away Dan Ige for 3 rounds. I'll say by decision. I don't see Barboza getting a finish at featherweight. However, Claudia Gadelha versus Angela Hill. Don't know why it's the co-main event. I guess because of Instagram followers, but even then that's not accurate because whatever. Angela Hill, Claudia Gadelha, women. They're on the co-main event. Good stuff. Gadelha is a good fighter. Angela Hill's a great fighter. These are actually 2 skilled women's strawweights here. Women's strawweight is a stacked division. It's not like the other women's divisions. This one's actually filled with talent, proven by the fact that Angela Hill is unranked. Angela Hill is going to beat Claudia Gadelha, in my opinion. I think Claudia Gadelha has reached a point in her career where she is no longer evolving her game. I think Angela Hill is way older, which I know she is. She's way older than Claudia Gadelha. However, she's newer to the game, and she still hasn't reached where she wants to go yet. So I feel like Angela Hill is improving way more. She just fought a great kickboxer in Luma Lookboom. She's got great grappling defense as well. I think Angela Hill's going to go out there and get the job done on Claudia Gadelha. She has a reach advantage over her. She's a better striker than Claudia Gadelha. I just think she's going to get the jump on her and get it finished. I've seen a slow decrease in skill from Claudia Gadelha since she started fighting for the titles with her fights with Andrade. That was a bad beatdown. Her fights with Joanna and Jacek. You know, it was a good performance from Gadelha, but since then I've noticed a significant decrease in performance level, and I think she's going to run into a bad matchup with Angela Hill, and Angela Hill is going to outstrike her for 3 rounds and earn herself the unanimous decision victory. Moving on. Angela Hill wins. Overeem versus Walt Harris. I purposely didn't decide on who I thought was going to win this fight as I made this video, because I don't know who's going to win this fight. I want to say Walt Harris. However, I'm terrified of saying Walt Harris. I understand that Walt Harris has KO power. I really do understand that, and it's something to take into consideration. However, I do remember that Walt Harris has not fought great opponents. He's gone to a draw with Andrei Arlovski, which was a less than impressive performance. I don't think that Walt Harris is maybe as good as we think he is. I know he beat Alexei Oleinik, but then again, Oleinik's an older guy, and I know Overeem has a bad chin as well, but I think that Overeem is aware enough now of these young, hungry up-and-comers. Overeem knows that what Walt Harris needs to do in this fight is to come at him like a freight train and try and get the KO in the first round. Overeem knew that was going to happen against Rosenstruik as well. I feel like he's learned to adjust. He's being way more patient and elusive. He's not going to plod forward like Alexei Oleinik. I think he's going to be elusive. He's going to run away a lot. He's going to look for his moments, and he's going to try and get a takedown on Walt Harris. And I think I'm going to go with Alistair Overeem winning by second round TKO. I think he's going to ground and pound Walt Harris. As much as I'm rooting for Walt Harris right now, I hope he wins after what happened in his whole story. The UFC just put out a video on their channel about his whole story. It was quite it moved my heart a little bit, I'll be honest with you guys. I'm rooting for Walt Harris. I just feel as though Overeem's going to get the jump on him. I think he learned from the Rosenstruik fight. And a lot of people say, but Rosenstruik beat Overeem. I don't see it that way. I know that Overeem got chinned by Rosenstruik in the last round. However, I know that would not be a normal stoppage. Like, it had 5 seconds left. If Overeem got back up and the ref didn't call that one off, that could have gone to a decision, and we would have been looking at a dominant win from Alistair Overeem. The only reason that fight was stopped was because Rosenstruik tried a walk-off KO, and every single time someone tries a walk-off the KO, the referee shits themselves and doesn't want to ruin it. I feel as though Overeem's going to get the jump on Harris. I know he has more ability, he has more skills, more tools to use in the fight. I think he's going to take down Walt Harris, do some ground and pound like he did to Sergey Pavlovich. He knows what these powerhouses want to do to him, and I think that he's going to get the jump on Walt Harris. I hope Walt Harris wins though, but Overeem's chin is weird, man. Sometimes he can take them, sometimes he can't. I think I'm going to bet that he can take the shots off Walt Harris, because Walt Harris, despite what some early KOs in his career would suggest, has had many a mediocre performance against a tricky veteran such as Andrei Arlovski that can make him think about things and make him not want to run straight into fireworks. Overeem's going to be able to do the same thing that Arlovski did, except Overeem's going to be able to take Walt Harris down and finish him by ground and pound, I'll say in the third round. Overeem gets the job done by TKO in the third. Like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. An amazing card, start to finish. I'm looking forward to all of it. My favourite fight on the card is probably going to be... Overeem Harris is good, but I think my favourite fight here might be Yadong versus Vera. I love that fight, and I'm very interested to see how it goes down at featherweight. I think it's going to backfire on the explosive Song Yadong, and I think it's going to benefit the slow, steady style of Vera. But there's amazing fights throughout this card, and who knows, Marvin Vettori versus Neil Magny might be on the card as well. I don't know, but apparently Marvin Vettori, Neil Magny is going to be on the card. So, and also this is a 5-fight main event. Main card. 5-fight main card. So if they do want to add another fight on there, they can. There's been 6-fight main cards before, and there's no championship fights on the line to hold things up. So, I guess I'll do a quick prediction. I think Vettori would beat Magny at 185. There you go. He's been training, Magny hasn't. Quick prediction there as well, just in case that fight gets added last minute before I even have time to tell and before this video goes out. Vettori would beat Magny, but Overeem is going to beat Harris. Like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Click that button there. Goodbye. See you later.